Hello Year 9 and welcome to this information on GCSE Psychology. Now most of you probably don't know me. I'm Mrs. Maidman. I'm Head of Psychology. I'm also Head of the Social Sciences and ICT faculty, which Psychology is part of. So you want to know what psychology is, but I think it's really important for me to start with what psychology is not. There is the line of thought that a psychology teacher, a psychology student is going to be able to read people's minds. If you know the television presenter Derren Brown, very entertaining, but this psychology course is not going to turn you into a Derren Brown. Of course, there is discussion within lessons, as there is within any GCSE subject, but this is not just about discussing what you think. And most importantly, it's not an easy subject. I'm going to give you that warning, but any GCSE, any teacher will tell you is not an easy subject. And if you're picking any option because you think that it is going to be an easy ride, then perhaps that's not making the best decision. So what is psychology? Well, psychology is the science of mind and behaviour. It looks at who we are and why we behave in the way that we do. And through this, we explore several different theories and then evaluations of these theories, looking at the strengths and weaknesses of the research that psychologists have carried out. And this forms a large part of what we explore in psychology. Now, I said earlier, it's not an easy subject. It's not what is sometimes referred to as a soft option. There was some research carried out a few years ago, and psychology was judged to be technically demanding because it makes use of complex concepts. Therefore, it is an academic subject, which is why I have these requirements. So unfortunately, not everyone is going to be able to opt for psychology. So in order to take it, in order for you to be able to put it onto your option form, you need to have a minimum of S+ for English and Maths on your last report. You also need a 6.5 or higher for combined science, or a 6 or higher in biology projected on your most recent report. Now I'll explain the reasons behind those, why English, Maths, biology are important within this subject. So I believe, obviously, I love my subject, that it is an interesting subject. Part of the reason why it's interesting is because it challenges you sometimes to think outside the box. It involves learning a lot of theory and psychological studies. And it is, as I've already said, a science, which means that you will be using scientific language that you've been used to using in science lessons, and there are a few there on the screen. So I've said that English is important. That's because you need good written communication. Now this is an example of a mini essay that we have on the psychology paper. Now it's 9 marks long. Now that might not seem particularly long when you hear about other subjects that have got 20, 25 mark length questions. But nonetheless, we approach this as our essay question. So you need to be able to describe theories clearly and then be able to weigh up the evidence. I've mentioned the strengths and the weaknesses of the evidence. So something we develop are good evaluation paragraphs. You're taken through the structure, but this would be a higher level response, being able to present your line of argument in this way. You'll also notice that there are some key terms here. Quite a lot of this subject is about learning new key terms and learning the names of researchers who carried out the experiments. So what will you study? On paper 1, which would largely take year 10 to cover, these are the topics. Memory, perception, child development and research methods. So within memory, we look at what is memory, how can we define it, how can we study something we can't directly see, different psychologists' viewpoint on how our memory works, and then looking at their research, looking at why it is that maybe we forget, and looking at an aspect called false memories. In perception, one of the areas, as demonstrated by the pictures, is about visual illusions, how it is that we perceive these images and what tricks are being played on our mind, but what makes us be able to see and interpret visual information and how that might vary across cultures. In child development, we're looking particularly at brain development and how this might impact on child's thinking, how thinking is a process that evolves and develops over time, and how that is age dependent. And in research methods, this is where we get the combination of maths and science skills. Mentioned researchers carry out investigations. Now you need to be able to understand how to interpret that information. So it's about reading data tables, being able to transfer information from a data table into some form of graphical representation, being able to work out the mean, mode, median, range from data, and then being able to comment on aspects such as what is the independent variable, what's the dependent variable, how to write a hypothesis, and other aspects of a scientific experiment, aim, method, results, conclusion. Paper 2 is largely studied in Year 11. These topics are social influence, language and communication, brain and neuropsychology, and psychological problems. And the two psychological problems that the exam board have chosen for us are depression and addiction. So social influence is about how you might act as an individual and how that could vary depending on the people that you're with. Why do you obey authority figures? Why don't you sometimes obey authority figures? What might be the components of that? Language and communication is looking at which comes first, your ability to understand language or your ability to use it and how that impacts on your thought processes. Brain and neuropsychology, exactly as it says there and demonstrated by the picture, understanding how different areas of the brain are responsible for key aspects of our behaviour. And if those particular areas of the brain were damaged, what impact might that have on the individual? And then mental health issues. So continuing to explore, as you may have done in How to Thrive, what is mental health? What might cause individuals to develop these conditions, and what are the treatments available to them? So I've mentioned collecting and using data. That's why you need to be competent in maths. And this is the typical type of question, being able to read a data table like this, being able to say something about the mean, being able to plot it correctly in tables and charts. So what skills would this course give you? Well, it gives you a range of transferable skills, and I think that's what's quite exciting about the course. So it isn't just about learning psychology, but it's what that might give you later on. And that's the ability to develop analytical and critical thinking skills, because you're constantly challenged to do that with each theory. Develop investigation and report writing skills when you look at a piece of research, about how to then discuss that piece of research and write about it accurately. And continue to encourage an appreciation of how science works. So there is a specification at a glance. They're the topics that I have mentioned. So there are 2 exam papers at the end of the course. It's fully examined. There are no controlled assessments. Each paper has a mix of multiple choice, short answer and extended writing, and each of those topics are equally weighted of 25 marks each. The exam paper is 1 hour and 45 minutes and is out of 100 marks. So here are a few quotes that previous psychology students have given me. I'll just give you a moment to pause and have a look at those. And I'll leave you with this quote by Carol Dweck. Now, Carol Dweck is responsible for the growth mindset theory, of which you should be familiar. We have many posters around the school and in subject areas. You're in charge of your mind. You can help it grow by using it in the right way. That's what Psychology GCSE will give you. Thank you very much, and I wish you a good day.